Hi there, this is Amy Kynes from Ready, Aim, Teach, and I hope this finds you doing exceptionally well. I know how hard you are working right now to meet the needs of each and every one of your students. Today, I wanted to come back to a topic that we had actually talked about last spring before the pandemic hit. So before you were home, we had discussed and we'd shared a resource with you for how to take a review of the classroom books in your classroom library. I wanted to come back to that today as a way for you to come back and look at the books that you are sharing now that you have a different model of teaching. Many of you are now teaching from home or from a home kind of environment or a distance learning environment where you might be sharing resources and books and materials that were not part of your classroom library, but might be part of a home library instead. So it's a great time to now take a step back and go back and think about, are the books that I'm sharing with my students the best match for them? And are they sending the message that I want to send to them? So we've included the resource that we shared last spring, but I invite you to go back to that resource now with different eyes and with a different lens. So as you look at that now, again, come back to it through the lens of equity, of course, but also through the lens now of distance learning. And am I sending the right messages to my students? So a couple of things that I want you to be thinking about as you're looking at these. I want you to think about, are there any stereotypes in the books that I'm sharing? And again, knowing that, of course, you did not bring your whole classroom library home with you. Of course, some of you I know have hundreds, if not thousands, of books in your classroom libraries. But the books that you're sharing, they may be favorites from your childhood or books that you've read to your own children hundreds of times. But do those books have stereotypes in them? So I invite you to choose a book or two and do a spot check. Are there stereotypical characters in there? Are there stereotypical settings in there? So take a look at what's in the books and just look for some stereotypes. Number one, you're looking at the pictures and the illustrations. But on top of that, you're also looking to see, is what I'm looking at recent and is it accurate? As I'm looking at that setting, is the setting accurate for everybody in a particular group, or is it a stereotype? And am I sending the message that everybody in this particular group lives in this kind of setting? Because if I'm sending that message and that's not actually right, then what I'm actually doing is perpetuating a stereotype that I don't mean to perpetuate. So I invite you just to take a look at some of your books and look at it through that lens of stereotype. The second thing to consider is called tokenism. And what that means is, do you have particularly a token character from a different group, right? So as you look at one of these books, is there one from a different ethnic group or a racial group or a religious group, just one representing the entire group? Because when that happens, students in your class could think everybody in that group is like that one character or like that one person in the book. And we know absolutely that is absolutely not true. So be looking to see if there is that one token person that is in the story or the book representing an entire group. And if so, you just want to be really cautious about that. And if you do continue to use that book, point that out, that that person is not representative of the entire group of people. So it's really something great for us as educators to be aware of. Also, when you just have that token person, it also could send the message that that particular group is viewed as less than as important as other groups. So just something to keep in mind. The third thing I wanted to mention is something called invisibility. Is there a group that's missing? So as you are reading a variety of stories, just make sure that we are covering the variety of different groups that we have, right, in our culture. So make sure that we have a variety of ethnicities represented, the different races, the different genders, the different socioeconomic groups, the different kinds of families. We want to make sure that we have such rich diversity in the books that we are sharing. And again, we know that you didn't bring home your entire classroom library with you. So be thinking about, do I have books that are representative of all the different kinds of group, or is there a group that has become invisible just because I might not have that book in my house or a book that represents that group in my home? And if not, see if it's a book you might borrow from a library, or see if there's something you might download and be sharing with your students. Because again, we want to make sure that we are representing all the different groups within the larger society. It's so important for all of our students to see themselves in the literature that we're sharing with our students. We've got a great course coming up called Equity in Education, Interrupting the Status Quo. And this is just one of the areas that we are going to be exploring. We know how critical it is now more than ever for us to be able to talk about these issues and think about how can we continue to be equitable for our students. How can we have conversations about race and equity, especially if we're not going to be face-to-face with our students, and if we're not face-to-face with our staff? How do we actually have these conversations with each other? We're going to talk about that in the workshop, and we'd love for you to join us. The information is here in this newsletter, so take a look at it. You can click on it and get all the information. Again, use the resource that's here, but look at it this time through the lens of your situation now. So if you're in the world of distance learning, use this resource to think about the books and the resources that you have in your home. And we'd love to see you at our equity workshop or any of the workshops that we've got coming up. On behalf of all of us at Ready Aim Teach, thank you so much for what you continue to do for your students each and every day.